Good afternoon, this is Red Robin Farm and I'm Mary Catherine. And I thought I would do an inside video today. I am warping up my loom to make another scarf because the last one I made sold so fast and a friend said, oh, start another one. So I think I am. I'm in my studio. Now Adam calls this my inspiration room, which I think is a silly name, but it's very sweet of him. Maybe I do get a little inspiration here. He hopes so. But I wanted to show you what my studio looks like. It is always a wreck, and it is full of stuff, but I kind of like it that way because there's always something to do. This is my spinning wheel. I know y'all have seen it before. I haven't done any spinning since probably last week, and I really want to get back to it, but I just had too much going on. This dresser holds lots of supplies. In the top drawer are some of my soap supplies, including a lot of this tray of essential oils that I use, and a lot of other things. There's some artwork that Julia did that she didn't like, so I got it. This is a box sitting out of place. It has my books in it that I try to sell. There's my turntable. These are some bags with soap supplies. There's a big bag of brown fleece that had a dead mouse in it. And I haven't used any of that in a while. These are some knitting needles. Isn't that cool? It gives the different sizes of the knitting needles. And so I've got quite a supply. I don't do as much knitting as I used to because I really prefer weaving. In this terrible corner, the box on the bottom is my soap making supplies. That's a big black tub. So I have my oils and all kinds of molds and things down there. This box is my weaving paraphernalia. Everything I need to use my loom. There's a sewing box. There's another loom. If you can see down there, way in the corner, that wooden thing is another small loom that I haven't even used yet. I got it at the thrift store. And this is my sewing machine, and I don't do a lot of sewing, but it's a nice piece of furniture to have, and it's useful to sew when you need to. I sewed some yesterday. Made a little pouch apron to wear at the farmer's market to keep my money in, because I've started going to a new market that has lots of people and I don't know everybody as well. Alright, so here's my loom sitting in front of the window. It's latched down to my, if you see this, here's a nice little vice thing back here that Adam got me that keeps it attached to the sewing machine. I've never warped up my loom in this particular location before. I keep looking for the perfect spot in the house. I don't like doing it on the dining room table because it's in the middle of the house and takes up a lot of space. Here it is in my studio, and I've started warping it up, and you see how the strands of yarn go from here all the way across the room to this bookcase, to this post that is also clamped down with my little clamp. There's not too much tension on it, so it's not going to yank it off there. I'm a naturally high-strung person, so I tend to do things tight, and I try to not put quite so much tension into my warp as my personality would usually dictate. Now, I made a scarf. It was really a shawl, kind of a narrow shawl, 10.5 inches by 70 inches. Nice and long, and I used a yarn very similar to this. Matter of fact, let me look over here and see if I can find the last little piece. Is it under there? Ah, I see it under there. There it is. It was this yarn. I did it first. You see how those are kind of cool colors. There's pink, blue. Even that looks like red is really just a very deep pink. And there's a little bit of orange for fun. And you see how this one's a little different. It's not so much a spring or summer yarn. It's got green and orange, more of a warm colors, fallish, but still bright and happy for spring. So just a little different. So I've picked some different warp yarns. I know that these two skeins will be enough for the weft to go back and forth all the way down. So I've picked these colors. This is good for sparkle. This is a festive fur yarn that is, in my mind, useless for making a single thing. I think it's just garish, but it adds a nice bit of bling to a woven garment, and when you put it in the weave, it flattens it out, and all this furry stuff doesn't really stick out much. This was a skein I got. It has some nice sparkle in it too. I like to have a little sparkle. This has a little bit of sparkle, not as much. So that will be scattered across in the weave. This is a nice darker, kind of more sedate. You need a break in all the variety. And the yellow will stand out nicely. It will contrast to this black, which I've already warped on. I like to have a little bit of black running through there for contrast. You see how nice that'll be. I've also already warped up some of this green, which will tie in well with the green in the weft yarn. And then this is just a crazy yarn that I started with. On the ends of a weave, I like to have something sturdy. I don't want to have the frilly fuzzy stuff or the sparkly stuff, or even something as unusual as this railroad yarn that I'm using. Now, some of these yarns I found at the thrift store, like that. I found that at the thrift store. It was probably 50 cents, 75 cents. But the railroad yarn, I got at a very nice yarn shop called Weaver's Web. In addition to this is a wool yarn. This is a very nice yarn. Some of those skeins can cost anywhere from $8 to $12 a piece. So a weave like this is very difficult to tell exactly how much it costs, because you get your yarn all over the place, and sometimes you use a little, and sometimes you use 3 skeins. It's more the time that it takes. Like, I've probably already spent an hour sorting, sorting through yarns, setting up my loom, and starting my weave. I thought I'd show you what I've done so far. On the far end, I've used this yarn. You can see how it looks when you warp it up. Next to it, I've used the green, so there's kind of a nice transition. Then for a contrast, I used the black. And then after I put the black on, I looked at my yarn, and the railroad yarn said, "Ooh, do me next." And then when I look at it, the one that says, "Oh, I want to be next," is the yellow. And that may sound very silly, but I really do, as I warp it up, I look at what I've done so far, and then I ask myself, what should come next? And it's like the yarn that should come next says, "Do me," and so I do. So I'll do the yellow next. I imagine then I'll probably do the gray. By then it will definitely be time for some sparkle, so I might do that, which would probably go well with the gray. After that, I might even actually do the pink. And then I'll probably try to go back into some of the colors I did before, perhaps the green again. I might throw a little bit more black in there to give a contrast with these lighter colors. Because what you want when you're done is you want some distinct lines coming this way in your shawl. And that's why you want some really contrasting colors in these long stripes, because the dominant yarn is the weft. And if you're not careful, your weft will just cover up your warp, and you won't even know that all this interesting stuff is there. So that's why I prefer something like this. I like a variegated weft. I like a kind of a pale weft. I like to do a loose weave on my weft, so that it doesn't cover up all this beautiful warp that's on here, because this is where the even more interesting stuff is. This is a nice chunky fun yarn too. It's a good combination, and I think you can see, if I hold this up here, how you can see how those are going to go well together. Okay. Oh, do I have anything else in here I want to show you? I hate to admit it, I don't know how to pause this video. I'd really like to pause it. Here's my my bookshelves. They're frightfully messy. That's a drawer full of yarn. All those bags under there, that's all yarn. These are all my children's books that I am stockpiling for grandchildren someday. This is where the action happens. There's my laptop. I've got some incense going. I've got some soap that I need to wrap. I've got pencils and paints there. This is my other bookcase with my printer. I'd like to go show you the soap that I'm making today, but I don't know how to pause this. And boy, do I wish I did. So I may just walk us through the house really quickly, and we'll go look at the soap. This is the dining room. Here is the kitchen. I've got one soap mold ready to go. By this time, I know exactly how much soap one batch makes. And this is just lavender soap today. I'm not making 4 or 5 or 6 different scents. That's a crazy thing to do, but I often do that. But I know that one batch of soap will fill this long mold here. And I don't want to do this whole mold or the soap will be too shallow. And so I block off each end. These are little whipping cream cartons that I have. You have to really wrap everything with, this is freezer paper, with waxed freezer paper, so that the soap will come out well. If we go on the back porch, I'll show you what I have so far. Oh dear, the back porch is very messy. Oh, well, anyway. This is what I've done already with my soap. These are my oils. Everything is measured to the gram. It's a very precise recipe. So these are my 3 oils: coconut oil, olive oil, and all vegetable shortening. And this is my lye and water. This stuff is very dangerous. I mean, normally I wouldn't even touch that bowl with my bare hand. But I don't have any children in the house, and this is in a place where the animals can't reach it, and we don't have a cat. But when these are cool enough, that's definitely cool enough. This is still rather hot, though. Usually the lye stays hot longer, but Adam had to go back to the store to get me some shortening. After I'd been to the store once to get the olive oil, I was very forgetful today. So the oils were done later, and so it's still pretty hot. But in a while, I will pour the lye into the oil, and it will get this cloudy, creamy look. It looks like pudding. And then I take that immersion blender that I have, and I blend it for 5 or maybe 10 minutes. It doesn't take very long, and it begins to thicken and come to trace, is what they call it. And if you let the soap from the mixer drip onto the surface, and you can see the little circles on the surface, that means it's at trace. At that point, I stir it a little bit more, and I add my lavender essential oil. I pour it into the molds. I cover it with saran wrap, not saran wrap, with plastic wrap. And then I wrap it. I wrap those molds in heavy towels so that they'll stay warm. You want it to get even warmer. The chemical reaction of these things, these two things together, makes the soap become very hot, and it goes through what's called a gel stage. And I don't think I'll be able to. I don't know how to pause the video, and I don't know and continue it later, so I may have to do another video when I do that. But anyway, that's a very fun thing to watch. And then the next day you can cut it, and 4 weeks later you can use it. So you do have to plan ahead of time. I'm making lavender soap so that Anna can give bars of soap to some ladies, lovely ladies in Mississippi, who are giving her a bridal shower in about a little over a month. So I have to think ahead of time so that this soap will be cured for 4 weeks before it's given. So it'll be ready to use. Okay. Adam is busy today making, see my messy, oh goodness, so messy. Here's the kitchen. I guess I could take a few minutes to show you how the kitchen turned out. I know you've seen photographs, but there's something nicer about video. We've got all those shelves up there. Those are pretty high. I have to have a step stool to get to the top one, but not to this next one. You see, I can reach up and I can get that. I barely have to go on my toes. And these are the baking cabinets, cooking cabinets, shelves we use a lot. I'm going to be using this wrap for my soap. And we kept the same stove, but this is one of my favorite things, is this pan rack that he put up above. See, this is that heavy-duty metal stuff with the, I don't want to click this camera wrong, with these elbows and the flanges. And then he found out how to do another flange and put a shelf on top. So I've got some pretty china up there that I get to display now instead of keeping it in the back of a cabinet. That's really a bowl I never use because one of my dear boys dropped it once and cracked it, but I keep it for display. And see, we're putting our flour in glass, which is fun. Still got a microwave. I get to have my cookbooks in the kitchen. Oh, here is the deadly, this thing is deadly. Here's the deadly immersion blender. That's what I damaged. See that finger? That did that to that finger. It's not quite as dented as it looks. It just feels weird, but it's perfectly functional. I can use it to play the piano. And, oh, this was made by a sweet lady in Jackson, Mississippi, named Jolynn Swayze. She did some beautiful silhouette work. I've had it all these years. This was my mother's from her old house. And this I found at a yard sale once for $1. It's a cute little copper mold. And there's our, finally got to put up my cast iron rack. This is a neat picture that my mother gave me years ago. It has that rustic look that I just love in the kitchen, and so I've always kept it. And you see how the yellow, really, it is a bright yellow, but with all the wood and all the stuff, it's a very nice background. So here are some things on the top shelf. Actually, we don't even have the very top shelf yet. There's going to be another shelf there. But that is not focusing well, I'm sorry to say. So I have some things up there I would rarely use. The things here, though, are on the second shelf down, but they're easy for me to reach. Pots and pans, Pyrex. I don't mind having these things visible in my kitchen. To me, that's what a kitchen is for. This is my cabinet, and this is where we spent the most money, I think, probably, in this kitchen remake, is in that piece of furniture, which was, I don't remember, $150? $125? $125 maybe. It's got storage in the bottom. I put things down there that I hardly ever use. There's our little skirt. I know some of you said, why don't you put Velcro back there, and then you won't have that funny little dip. I have a thumbtack right there. But, call me weird, but I just don't like the idea of having a piece of Velcro glued to my handmade sink surround. I mean, it's not fine. This is just plywood, okay? But, I don't know. For some reason, I'm just not a Velcro kind of girl, usually. So there's our sink. It's about 1 inch higher than it was before, which is just lovely. There's something about being able to hear, to hear your plumbing as it gurgles away, because it's just a skirt and not doors and wood. You can really hear the plumbing. But you know, that's good. It's good to know what your water's doing and where it's going. Here's our other cabinets, and I tell you, there's nothing like being able to do dishes. Pick up your plate, put it down. That's putting away dishes in our house. Pick up the bowl, put it there. Another bowl, put it there. It is so handy to be able to put things away just like that. No opening doors a dozen times just to put away a few dishes. All the glasses are here. Boom. There it is. We had some definite things we wanted. I wanted these things, these little machines, off of the counter. When we want them, they're already plugged in. When we want them, we can bring them down to this table. This is Adam's table, his baking table. But it's also more like a counter. And it's high enough, and it's nice and deep, so you can get a lot of work done on here. We have a cutting board on here too. So we can bring those down and use them and put them back up so that they're not on the counter all the time. They actually are on this shelf that's just only a little bit above the counter. I also wanted my trash can in the kitchen. It used to be on the back porch, which was a pain. I wanted some hooks for hanging aprons and so many different things I wanted in my kitchen, and I think we pretty much got them all. The only thing we haven't figured out yet is where we want to put our paper towel roll. Just don't know that yet. I wanted to have a dowel sticking out of something so we could just whoosh, slide the paper towels onto it, but we haven't decided where yet. So we're getting there. So there's the kitchen. Now I'm going to go finish warping up my loom. You have some idea of where I'm going with that, and then I will finish my soap batch, and maybe I'll come back with some photographs and show you what's going on with that. Thanks so much for touring around the house with me. Bye-bye for now.